So our ideas at this point are, first of all, to create a database of images tracing the genealogy of the Holland Society that would occur through these membership applications, very much like we did for Daughters of Holland Dames. Cooler than that, in my opinion, would be to link the two and eventually start to work with the fabulous materials that Firth and the folks at the Huguenot Society have in their membership application files, because they include hand-tinted family trees, beautiful artwork, including family crests, awesome materials are in those files too. Holland Society has also got a collection of historic photographs, and it would be really fun to be able to create that family tree and then, of course, link it up to good digital scans of these historic photographs. Then, of course, linking this database and the images to the Costello plan will make this come alive as people. These houses are, and as you said so clearly, you must entertain in order to engage people in history. Strict lists of genealogy are really interested to those of us who have this little obsessive-compulsive streak. But let's face it, and everybody in this room is like preaching to the choir, because I know everybody hears that same way, but you know, I have two kids who are really interested in history, in part because they're bathed in it daily. But most of their little friends, it's cool if they can figure out, well, how do I navigate the bark? And when I get to that house, if you're a girl, it's like, oh my God, I get to see her in her wedding dress and maybe see what they served at that dinner for the cake, and how cool is that? And, you know, I mean, there's all kinds of really wonderful, engaging things that can be done with that. And the fact that you guys have all of this for real information about it, nobody's just like making it up. It's not like a video game where you're sort of saying, oh, I'm going to create this little, you know, Dora the Explorer character. These are real people.
That goes back, let's say, I know the Huguenot Society was formed in 1883. They have a record of every member who's ever applied.
What?
It's in the filing cabinet. Holland Society, 1885. A record of every member who's ever been approved. And all of the generations going back. Clearly, there's an issue here that we are concerned about, which is disclosure and protection of people who don't want their name on the internet. Their credit card gets going into. So our thought is we would start with, say, 1950 backwards, and nobody shows up in this database. They're still alive. And that would, I think, eliminate some of the issues that, of confidentiality, I believe. But again, this is in a talk stage. We're not going to be able to go and just grab this information. There's going to have to be full disclosure, full knowledge, full approval of the powers of these organizations, I believe, will be really implement the concept. But, as I said before, the Latter-day Saint group in Utah, they let them come in. Why not us?
And I think, you know, it may be that each of the different organizations chooses a little bit different cutoff date. It may be that they contact living family members and request the opportunity to present information for a particular family. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that for that. But I also think that one of the big issues in creating a fantastic virtual exhibit like this is sustainability. How do you keep this thing funded for a decade? Not for the next 10 months, but for a long time. And to me, the fact that you have these societies built and you have this genealogical information means that you have the opportunity to reach those 25 million people in a way that very few other organizations do. And there is an opportunity there for you to increase membership and potentially provide an income stream for the organizations.
I think there again, we're going to focus on the 300 houses. That's 300 names.
Right.
And that's a finite, definable data set
Piece.
that I think is reasonable. You know, a nice size, enough observations there to draw some conclusions. I don't know what the sample size requirements are, but yeah, certainly knows been doing all kinds of different cross-tabulations, research, comparing. Again, I'm going to get into some of the other discussions. I think I want to thank, I want to finish up, but one of the starting points here is I had a meeting in Albany. Thanks to Len Tantillo, I met Steve Belinsky. And Steve has been working 30 years on the colonial project of Albany, if I have that right. And when he saw what we were doing, thinking about, he just said, well, why not Albany? I said, well, you're next. But basically, starting out a project of this type, the fundamental issues that need to be addressed are those of definition and measurement. And what Steve has done is he has on the internet, he's got a guide for operations. And I've been looking at that guide and I've been picking off parts of it that I think would fit for what we're doing. But again, you need to really look at all these historical resources and define. We could start, I believe, with the census categories for how they collect information for the U.S. Census. And the idea would be to use readily available definitions and measurements that are accepted by everybody. So the database that I put together for Lower Manhattan, of every block and every lot in Lower Manhattan, it's got all the census data attached to it. Those same measurements could be used driving through the 325 houses or whatever there are there in the population. You can begin to collect basic underlying house-related site information about the characteristics of the individuals who live in the house, to the extent that we can. Much of this could be geared to thematic issues that we're going to be exploring. And I think the starting point, again, is the house itself. There's this database that's been put together on American houses back in the 30s during the WPA. They started, I think it's called HAMS, Historic House.
Historic American Building Survey.
Say that again?
The Historic American Building Survey.
Historic American Building Survey. That methodology fits what we're doing. If we start with something that's acceptable, no one can test the fact that that methodology works. It's probably being used by the landmarks. You have the basis to begin to collect information. I was looking on the internet here. It's in the Federal Register. The methodology. It's accepted. But why would we start anywhere else? Let's start with existing, definable measurements and go forward. I don't know if Peter Rose has developed her recipes around a database, but maybe she has. Again, we want to draw into the thematic aspects of the participants here and get your ideas about, and again, I'm trying to sort of lay the foundation for where we're going in the next few hours, is we're looking for, after you've spent, thank God you all came, because it didn't snow and everybody made it. We're going to go through a few more hours of discussion, getting feedback. I'm going to ask you all to go home, kind of gather all the information together, what you're thinking about, and come back with an American House survey model for your theme. Again, that's sort of loosely stated, but how do you measure what it is that you all write about? Birthrights about women in New Netherlands. Joel has all kinds of studies that he does for the EPA to either stop buildings from being built or allow buildings to be built. He works both sides of the table. I'm sure